We go off-road racing in mud-sweating gears today. This time round we feature highlights of the Colt Baberspan 500, second round of the SA Off-Road Championship for motor vehicles. After round one of the championship, the Lichtenberg 400, the Mitsubishi Pajero team of Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer were leading the production vehicle category. And for this event, they had a brand new weapon at their disposal, the ex-Dakar Pajero, which finished second last year. Woolridge and Scholthammer were leading Pete Haasbroek and Christo Bosch in their Toyota, who were also at the top of Class D, with Hannes Schwabler and Richard Leek in their BP Nissan third. In the special vehicle category, the championship leaders were father and son combination Bodo and Gary Berthold in their night glass raceco. They had a great run in the Lichtenberg 400, beating many of the more fancied teams to get their championship campaign off to the best possible start. The Berthold pair were also leading Class B and ahead of Class A leaders Henry Kirstein and Reinier Juster in their raceco, with Rashid Noble and Steve Cooper third overall.
No, so I'd like you to comment about Colt's sponsorship of this event, what prompted it, and how you as a manufacturer see off-road racing benefiting the motor manufacturers in the future.
Look, as funny enough, Oppie said on the last interview, this is going to become one of the biggest motorsport entities in South Africa. So for the manufacturers not participating at this stage, they're basically just losing. From our side sponsoring the event, we've been involved in motor racing from Mercedes-Benz, from Colt, from all over the world, and we just felt that it's really time that we try and plow some effort back into motorsport.
Time trials are held to determine the starting order for the race, and crews got an early indication of what they could expect. Brandon Harkus was partnered by circuit racer Richard Roots in the Golden Data Racing Raceco and set the seventh quickest time. Jackie Joubert in the Jojo Tanks Beetle, with its turbocharged Volvo engine, was partnered by Dakar legend and multiple quad champion Vickers van Deventer.
Yeah, it's a new experience for me, but I look forward. I never realized a car could sit like we say in Afrikaans, so near to be fat. This car is unreal. I always see it, but I never be in it, and it's lovely to be in it. It's like a electric car. It just it never go off the track, and I can't think. I think we had a good chance here to do very well.
Rob Walk had gone the twin-seater route with his son Gareth in the hot seat of the Super Pave Raceco. Walk had swapped cars with JJ Volmerons from Botswana, who ironically got passed by the Walks after getting stuck during the time trial.
Rob, you're better known for your exploits in single-seaters in recent years. You've changed seats.
Yeah, it's change is as good as a holiday, I reckon, and I'm looking forward to a good season of twin-seater with Gareth, my son, and hopefully I can keep up the good work that I did in the single-seater.
You're one of the many sons involved with their fathers in off-road racing. What's this appeal that off-road racing has for, call it, family-based sport?
Well, first of all, if your father's racing, obviously the son's got to come up from somewhere. I started at a young age, and I just got up with it, and now I just love it. Can't get it out of my system.
Enzo Kun here, and a bit of a wrong slot for the rally star.
As a rallyist, you used to being mollycoddled. You do 4 kilometers a stage, you have new tires, you get fed, you get massaged, you get watered, all of that. Comment about the endurance element of off-road racing. It's like chalk and cheese.
There's a big difference between the two. I mean, I'm, as you say, used to after 5 kilometers or say 4 minutes get a fresh set of tires and a cool drink, and there's nothing like this here. You know, you need to look after yourself as well, and it's still hot inside the vehicle. It's still hard work, and you've got 5 hours to go. So there's a big difference, and I think that also dictates the pace you're driving at, which is a long way from what we are used to in rallying, where we go 100% or as close, as fast as we physically can drive that vehicle. Here we are going, pacing ourselves to make it to the end.
Elsa Tiart from Veal magazine, partnering Frikkie Buerter in the Santon Pajero, came across Woolridge and Scholthammer, who'd suffered some serious damage to the front suspension of the Mitsubishi Pajero.
Neil, tell us what happened. We just clipped this big tree stump on the inside there, and we've damaged the suspension a little bit. but we'll fix it and we'll be on our way again. Can you, this Anna? Okay. This side of the box.
Philip Buerter and Guillaume Knipe from Gaborone in their Toyota Hilux were one of the many teams that passed the stricken Pajero, which would start 65th out of 74 cars the following day. Problems too for 11 times rally champion Cyril van der Merwe and Scott Abraham in their SALive.com Jeep Cherokee.
Rolled about 3 k's in just before the water splash, or maybe even earlier. There was a puff of smoke from the gearbox. It looked like a breather pipe or a gasket or something went in the gearbox. We then lost first and second gear. Carried on in third, eventually that went as well. And this is how we got in reverse, which is about 7 k's from the end of the section. We did probably about 5 k's in reverse as well. So it looks like another gearbox would have to be put in.
Berta, what seems to be the problem?
I think we did a pretty good time trial. I'm sure we put up the fastest time in Class V. Of that I'm quite sure. We're going very well. And all of a sudden coming back on the main road, we're going quite slowly. We had a rrrr like that. And when we stop now, we've got a hole in the engine block. The conrods come right through the side of the block. You can look in this side of the engine block and look out the other. Look down the bottom here. You can see daylight on the other side. It's a brand new engine.
So, mixed fortunes for some of the fancy teams in the time trial, and in fact the Bertholts were out of the race. As the sun set on the horizon in the northwest province, those who were still in the race settled down for the night. Most crews would do some final checks on their vehicles to make sure that everything was right for the next day, which would cover 500 kilometres in the Delaredo-Mabatu area. Some competitors and their families could relax around the campfire in fine off-roading tradition. While others, like the crew of the SALive.com Jeep, worked through the night, also in fine off-roading tradition. The starting order for Racing Section 2 saw Bevan Bertholdt and Botswana businessman Atang Mahakhaneni in pole position. But one thing was for certain, this order would not remain the same. In contrast to previous years, where 2 loops of 250 kilometres each were used, this year's Colt Baberspan 500 route comprised a single 500 kilometre long loop with a service point at the halfway mark.
A serious piece of equipment here.
This is, I think, is the best piece of equipment in off-road racing. It's this car won the Roof of Africa in 1999, and we also participated in the Roof of Africa last year. We didn't do very well, but I think we're a very capable team. Myself, my driver, now obviously our sponsor Speed Stick. With this car that we have, we did well on the trials yesterday. There's a lot of competition, but we did very well, especially to the fact that it's our first race on the vehicle, and we just have to take it easy, and it's a long race, and we'll finish well.
Cliff Weichholt and Johan Smalberger were quickest in the production vehicle category in their N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser.
Oh, well, we're just going to try and stick with the pace. See the pace we had yesterday, because we were actually quite comfortable. We're going to try and stick with that pace and try and go through. Try not to get punctures, try not to stop. That's been our problem in the past. We had to stop too many times.
Early morning Saturday, and competitors knew they were facing a lot of water in certain areas after heavy rainfalls in the area over the last few weeks. The Speedstick Raceco was treading very carefully indeed. Back at the start, a nice crowd had gathered to see the competitors off. Weichholt and Smalberger floored the accelerator as they set off at the head of the production vehicle category on what promised to be a punishing course. Multiple off-road and rally champions Hannes Fodler and Richard Leek started 10th in the VP Nissan Hardbody, an almost standard vehicle which brought them home 3rd overall in the Lichtenberg 400. Henry and Maurice Zermatten in their PlayStation-backed Pajero had gone as hard as possible in the time trial to avoid starting low down the field, and and risk getting stuck in the mud churned up by the leaders. Cliff Barker and Vic Camper in the BMW M3-powered Land Rover were contenders for overall victory, as was the Woolwich Scholthammer Pajero.
Now we've got a car that we've been allowed to, well, it's, the rules are much more flexible, and we can actually compete head-to-head with the guys now.
Starting from virtually the back of the field, Woolwich and Scholthammer were forced to go hard from the start, not wanting to allow the leading vehicles to pull too much of a lead, and hoping to challenge for a top 10 position towards the end of the race. And the Minerva and the young Abraham faced a similar challenge.
Well, we lost the gearbox yesterday halfway through the seeding stage. We just got us stuck there and we had to be taken back here. And overnight we fitted a new gearbox. But now we're starting right at the back, and all I've got to do is pass 67 cars to win.
And if anybody can do it, Supervan can. He also tackled the route with gusto, setting the quickest time of all on the run to the first Marshall checkpoint. An indication of just how competitive off-road racing has become in both motor vehicle categories was the fact that some hour and a half into the race, the top runners were still closely bunched together. Shamir Variawa and Bucks Carolyn in their corn-baked Jimco had gone to the front and were leading this bunch, which included Jackie Joubert and Vickers van Deventer and Brandon Harkus and Reckard Woods. Still running at the head of the production vehicle category at this stage were Weichelt and Smalberger in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser. But they were being hauled in by the PlayStation Pajero of Henry and Maurice Zermatten, who were in contention in Class D for slightly modified production vehicles. Up to now, they were having a trouble-free run. Further down the field, the competition between the remaining production vehicles was also desperately close, as defending champions Avi Reinecker and Robin Houghton in their Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser began to move up the field, here getting past the Nissan of Hein Krobler and Charles Volmerans. Not far behind were Class E leaders Jean-Pierre Joubert and Errol Hodgson in their Charlin Freight Toyota Hilux. The Dark Dog Raceco of John Weir Smith, sixth in the Special Vehicle Championship after the Lichtenberg 400, was holding a strong midfield position as we join Enzo Kuhn and Francois Jourdan in their Class D Colt. The pair started third in class and 20th overall. They were being chased hard and hauled in by another father and son combination, Shumi and Carl van Vuren from Botswana in their Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Woolwich and Scholthammer were on a charge in the Mitsubishi Pajero and had to contend with traffic and roads churned up by all the competitors ahead of them. Mud patches like this posed no problem for the Pajero as they passed the stranded raceco of Bevan Berthold and Atang Machageneni. River crossings are always popular with the spectators, and they were not to be disappointed at Setwakwoli. Jackie Joubert and Vickers van Deventer were still going strong in their Jojo Tanks Beetle, now at the head of this pack of special vehicles. Joubert decided the only way to defend is to attack. The rest followed suit, as getting stuck here would seriously damage their chances of staying with the leading bunch. Gerhard and Laurens Duplessis had in the meantime got past early special vehicle category leaders Shamir Variawa and Bucks Carolyn in the corn-baked Jimco. Still running at the front of the production vehicle category were Cliff Weichelt and Johan Smalberger in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser, coming under increasing pressure from the Propeller Leak BP Nissan hardbody. The ever-consistent Henry and Maurice Zermatten were still having a trouble-free run in their PlayStation Pajero. Further back, Reinecker and Houghton in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser were still ahead of Krobler and Volmerans, and by now these two teams were joined by another group of production vehicles. Having finished only fifth in the Lichtenberg 400 and needing a much better result here, the defending champions were pacing themselves well. Well, not everybody got through without a problem, as Hein Krobler and Charles Volmerans saw one vehicle after another pass them by. That was the Toyota of Piet Haasbroek and Christo Bosch, and after a few attempts, the Nissan got going. John Weir-Smith and Jeff Minnett had the same problem in their Dark Dog racecoat, much to the delight of the spectators who could then lend a helping hand. Enzo Kuhn and Francois Jourdan were still in contention in Class D. But the team on a mission was the Pajero pairing of Neil Woolrich and Kenny Scholthammer, who'd been picking them off one by one and were technically in the lead on corrected time. Also flying through the field were Sarel van der Merwe and Scott Abraham in the SALive.com Jeep Cherokee. Some of the front-running special vehicles had got lost after they mistakenly followed a retired Jackie Joubert, whose VW had suffered a blown turbocharger. This benefited Avi Reinecker and Robin Houghton, who'd moved to the front of the field while a titanic battle unfolded behind them. Pete Haasbroek and Christa Bosch had moved up into second position on the road. Weir-Smith and Minnett were now leading the special vehicle pack. Henry and Maurice Zermatt in the PlayStation Pajero showed true sportsmanship by allowing the faster Franz Chepek Sr. and Jr. in their Epson V Motors Chenoweth through. Weichelt and Smallberger had dropped off the pace after picking up a puncture and overheating problems and were being chased by the Duplessis brothers in their Chenoweth. Variawa and Carolyn were still playing the waiting game. Schumi and Karl van Vuren were well down the order on the road, but on corrected time had actually moved to the front of Class D, while Hannes Hrobler and Richard Leek were running a strong third in Class T. They were chased by the Colt of Kuhn and Jourdan. Henry Costain and Renier Juster in their Raceco were in the top 5 in the special vehicle category, while Andrew and Chris Birkin were well on their way to breaking the non-finishers jinx that's been plaguing them for some time. Greg Harvey and Boy Stone in their Castrol Jimco were on their way to finishing third in the special vehicle category. Woolrich and Scholthammer were by far the quickest of them all, and on corrected time had taken the overall lead. Gerhard Kampfer and Oki Fari were heading for a top 3 finish in Class T in the Quadrishaw Toyota Hilux. In the Class B battle, KwaZulu-Natal driver Billy Bond in the Prolong Sandmaster was being chased by the Sandmaster of Freddie van der Linde. The Van der Merwe Abraham Jeep was on a real charge. On corrected time, they were now a second overall, while Derek and Tina de Bruin were on their way to a 5th place finish in Class D. At the service point, halfway through the race, Archie Reinecker and Robin Houghton were first on the road and first to stop for a quick check-over of the vehicle and a well-deserved break for the crew. Shamir Variawa and Buck Carolyn in the Corn-Baked Jimco were part of the group that had got lost earlier, but they were well within striking distance of the leaders.
The selector on the gear shifter. Getting to get jump. You run in front and you keep on dropping back and can't change gears. So we're going to drive it in the
A quick repair to the gear shift before setting off, while over at the BP Nissan pit there was frantic activity around the Frobbler Leak Nissan, as a number of things had to be fixed on the vehicle. But Frobbler wasn't too bothered about it all.
Thanks. Well, at the moment, a little bit rough, but we're going strong. We're not far behind the other guys. We lost at one place, and I think we lost about 3 minutes, but we're going strong.
While everybody else stopped, Woolrich and Scholthammer didn't even bother. The large fuel tank on the Pajero a distinct advantage. In the cold pits, a dirty Enzo Kuhn was still smiling.
Better than last time. I think it's the driver's taking more straight this time. But we're struggling with oil usage. Motor is using a lot of oil, but apart from that, everything's fine.
Now way down the field after running out of fuel and losing a lot of time, the Van der Merwe Abraham combination had begun to experience some problems with the SALive.com Jeep. Apart from an overheating engine, there was also a fuel surge problem, and the Maestro was doing well to suppress his disappointment.
Well, we lost 42 minutes after running out of fuel. Otherwise it would have been good.
After the refuel, the Chepex soon caught up with Reinecker and Houghton and were leading the field, but some dubious route markings caused them to wrong slot, which cost them some time. The Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser was suffering from overheating problems, but there were no such problems for the Duplessis brothers. Shamir Variawa and Bucks Carolyn were setting a blistering pace, chasing the Duplessis brothers, but they would also fall foul of poor route markings towards the end, while Schumi and Karl van Vuren were now effectively leading Class D. This is the appropriately named Duchterbos area, which posed a special challenge for the likes of Weir Smith and Minute, who were also suffering from electrical problems. The Zermattens were taking it easy as they could only take a half tank of fuel on board at the service point. But Woolrich and Scholthammer were still flying in what had turned out to be an incredible drive. Duchterbos challenged the cruise with its tight and twisty route, with the ever-present threat of stray animals a danger. Probler and Leek were now well on their way to second place in Class T. The spectators had gathered at the famous Marietsane dry river crossing, and in true off-road tradition, most had made a day, or a weekend of it. They were looking forward to the spectacle of these off-road machines blasting past and were definitely not disappointed as Shamir Variawa charged over the rocky surface in pursuit of overall victory. Just as spectacular was the Mitsubishi Pajero of hard-charging Neil Woolrich and Kenny Scholthammer. And the popular Hannes Wobbler had the crowd fully behind him too. The Chepex lost time due to a wrong slot and a broken accelerator cable, and eventually ran out of fuel a few kilometers from the end. They were excluded for being towed across the finish line. The Van Vuren father and son pair were having a dream race and went on to win Class D, finishing second in the production vehicle category and second overall. After the Chepex problems, a great performance from Variawa and Carolyn saw them move into first place on the road to secure a win in the special vehicle category, first place in Class A and fourth overall. Following their fourth in category and third in class in the Lichtenberg 400, this result would catapult them to the top of the special vehicle standings. Veteran off-road racer and navigator Bucks Carolyn was happy with the result, albeit with some reservations.
He's very good. I'm busy trying to train him up a bit. He's got a few basic flaws that I'm ironing out on the guy, but he's got the ability. He needs to get fit. But I enjoyed the day. It's my first win ever as a nav. I haven't had one of these. To me, that was great fun. And I think you know, these youngsters are in the cars nowadays. They're showing us old boys what to do, and the pace was hot, and it was a really good race.
A hero's welcome awaited Neil Woolrich and Kenny Scholthammer, who'd worked their way past 64 cars to bring the Mitsubishi Pajero home first overall, first in category, and first in class in its debut race.
2 wins, 2 starts, a hell of a way to start the season.
Yeah, I thought we can't start any better than this. It's been fantastic. There's been a lot of pressure this week with the arrival of the new car and all the expectations from our sponsors. So I think yesterday with me hitting that log showed the little bit of pressure I was under, which is not normal for me. But I've enjoyed today. It's been hard work, starting 65th this morning and 32 minutes behind the leaders. We had to work hard all day. And the marking was a little bit suspect near the end, so we all got lost a little bit. But the car's been fantastic. We had 2 punches, which we stopped and fixed. And but the car's been great. It's fantastic. It's been a good run.
The final results see Variawa and Carolyn first in Class A, Heel Nell and his Sandmaster taking Class B, Velman and Mengel in their Toyota Class C, and the Van Vurens winning Class D. Their first class victory for a long time in Class E for the Birkin brothers, with a great result for Probler and Leek finishing second in Class T, behind Woolrich and Scholthammer. Keep abreast of the latest